Good day, everybody. And it's happy to be here to be with such distinguished panel. And so today's theme, is about innovation, right? So maybe one of the key things is, as we know, innovation is essential to the success for all of our business today. And as the data and the digital technologies, in a sense, affects every sector, and businesses are under tremendous pressure to innovate. And either you innovate and disrupt, or you suffer disruption yourself. And there are plenty of examples today that such things happen. For example, right, we know there are companies getting disappeared due to lack of innovation or being replaced by some other disruptive technology or new player coming to see. And, I still remember Blockbuster, I go there to rent VHS tape for movies, then DVDs, and then, well, today they no longer exist because it's being disrupted by Netflix, right? Borders used to be a very big bookstore. Well, gradually disappeared. Well, because Amazon come into the scene, and Kodak, right? We all, sometimes see the Kodak moment, right? Taking pictures. Well, the film industry for at least the consumer side disappeared because of digital cameras, right? We also know Apple iPhone, when it first came out, right? People say, gosh, why you needed such a big phone in your hand? Actually, I was one of them. I said, God, I will never hold the big phone. But today, and I have the largest iPhone or largest smartphone in my hand because I can do many things, right? Revolutionize the whole industry. There are many, many examples like that. So I like to, ask my, the panelists, right? And from your opinion, how do people find a purpose behind the innovations, and why company doing it, or why, there gotta be some reason. So it's not like you innovate for anything, everything you're thinking about it. You must have a purpose behind it, and so you can take advantage of it. And so so now I open the things just to my panelists. So anybody want to take a first step at this question? What, Dr. Birgit, do you mind lead us off?
Thank you. I absolutely love this question, because this question is very much like the question of chicken and egg. Which one comes first? Whether it is the innovation and we need to find a purpose behind it, or whether we have a purpose and then we create an innovation to follow. And I believe that the easier version is to start with the purpose, or to start with the end in mind, and then see whether or what kind of an innovation we actually need to achieve that purpose.
Okay, I mean, I think that's a very important point, right? I mean, it's somewhat a chicken and egg, and at the same time, right, a company has to have a purpose to do that, right? And so if they can adapt, that's another key thing is technology advances and our company can adapt, and one of the good example, if you're thinking about it, right, is Apple computer. Maybe Royston, maybe you can chime in since you work at Apple, right? Apple needs so many innovations and revolutionize so many technologies that affect our daily life.
Yeah, hit on that.
Thanks.
Let me chime in. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Ron. I think it's I'll be quick, and it's about obsessing over what customers want. And I think understanding the consumer requirements before they become requirement. And that's only possible if you are fully vested, not only in adopting, accepting the technology, but also seeing how the market trends are going towards and how the consumers are adopting to these new technology. And I know that's what Apple has done tremendously well over the past decade and a half, or almost 2 decades per se, starting from iPods, and that's surely industry changing moves Apple has done. And that's no small feat because we accept innovation and changes openly. We work towards it diligently, and we obsess over what consumers may or might want, and we try and build products and deliver them to consumers before others do. And that's been the key for our success.
That's great. Well, thank you. So, Mudit, do you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, no, sure, absolutely. I think that's a key question we have, like innovation and what is the purpose? I think that's the question you asked, Ron. So primarily, I think the purpose is driven like an overall like human race is kind of evolving with that as well with these innovations. And if you look back, like I kind of see that internet was the biggest kind of innovation of the century. And then beyond that, I think obviously Apple has done quite a bit, like where things are moving in the direction of apps and all that. So it's kind of a goes back like how can we improve our day-to-day life and how can we improve what we do, and based on that, I think all this innovation comes in and all these apps we see today, like recent IPOs as well. If you want to kind of talk about that, Airbnb and DoorDash, like what is that? It's primarily like innovation and changing the business process or business model. Those things are still existing today, but it's completely technology driven innovation which is fueling the market or fueling how the consumer react to those things. So that's like, I think it's like changing the way we work, the changing what we do. And I think that's the purpose is like what we can do, how can we do better, faster, and like data driven approach.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things is, innovation not only affect a company, right, but also affect the way we utilize innovative technologies. For example, I'm working at a Lucas Museum. There are so many technology out there. So we start say, gosh, how can we turn a museum into a more, engaged experience? And what technology out there so we can engage so that we can immerse ourselves into the environment. I always say, in the old days, and when I go to a museum, I usually only go to that place one time because everything is static, right? Unless you love a particular arts or exhibits, you keep going there, just stare at the same thing, right? And one of the goals is how you immerse yourself into it. So of course, there are many of a museum or companies start utilizing technology, for example, using, AR, right? Or, VR, right? And another sense is it's like even VR, say, gosh, sometimes people don't want to place the virtual reality gears in their head for health reasons, whatever. And there are technology like you have a panel in front of it, actually give you the experience of a virtual reality as well. And we all know IoT is taking over, right? We have smart buildings, smart cities, and smart homes, and start utilizing all kinds of things for that. Another thing is, because of the location-based services, geofencing technologies, right? And all those kind of things start to be integrated and to enhance our overall experience. And doesn't matter where we go, right? Geofencing is used even at a Starbucks or many other locations that when you're walking close by a location, certainly ad popping up, right? All those kind of things really are utilizing all those new technologies for the purpose of course, generate revenue, right? At the end of the day, anybody, business existing is generate revenue, right? Whether they satisfy their existing customer base or a new product, right? So I don't know. I didn't see Maya. Is Maya, also another panelist? Is she on online today? I did not
I'm
see
here.
her. So
Here.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. So Maya, do you want to add anything to what we just talked about?
Yes, first of all, it's so great to listen to everybody, and thank you, Droisys, for having us. I would like to add a comment on innovation within the companies and enterprises. So usually companies focus on adjacent innovation. That means something where their products are very close to. And but what we have also seen, and you have mentioned a couple of examples of disruptive innovation. So in order to survive going forward, it's very important that company focuses on and allow both people in adjacent innovation and innovating within the products, which are goal for many companies, but also enable people to actually go to disruptive innovation and trying to bring new type of the products or the markets into their domain. And so my second comment would be also, people will not just become innovative because you send them email, oh, be innovative. You have to create a framework for innovation. People have to get some space, some time, and maybe some money. And then once they have figured out about something, they need to present it to a body, to someone who say, oh yeah, that's a great idea, please proceed, or well, doesn't fit with what we want to achieve, and so on. So I personally, myself in my companies, I'll always focus that there is also a space, time and money for people to be able to be innovative and bring adjacent or even disruptive ideas, which, for example, in a big company like Ericsson usually was discarded, but it was good that people think in an innovative way.
Yeah, I think that's great. So actually, I was looking at a Gartner report. So Gartner, as everybody knows, every year they put a new technology trend, a theme, and so they just put up a new one for 2021. So this year, actually, what they did is not only list some of the technologies, they also put it into what they call a theme. And they had 3 themes. And so then they categorize the technology into which theme they are. So the 3 theme is one is called centricity. You know, all the technologies that concentrate on the people side of it. For example, they have what they call, the Internet of Behaviors, right? So because we have all those kind of IoT, and then it change people's behaviors, and then total experience strategy. Some of the example I use, like immersed experience, right? It's all part of this people centricity theme, and in the privacy side of it as well. The other things they also had is a location independence, right? And even though today, unfortunately, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we all stay at home, but the light is it's at the end of the tunnel. We're gonna come out very soon, and then people gonna go to different places, right? And based on where you are, the location become very important as a part of your overall experience. For example, I use geofencing as well, right? And this one is very true even today. Anywhere operation. I mean, today we working from home. We never thought it could be possible that at this massive level, right? And then Gartner also separated another theme area they call resilient deliveries. How can you have infrastructure that you can, resilient and consistently deliver the kind of things we do? Some of the technology like hyper automations, AI engineering as well, right? And so there are many of the emerging technologies that not only a company that try to develop as a product, but also we as a company or try to utilize the technology to enhance our current business, right? So the overall exponential technology advances in the last decade and really change everything around us faster than we ever can think about it. One of the technology is called hyper automation. And so where business and automates as many business and technology engineering process as possible using all the new tools such as AI, machine learning, event-driven software, robotics process automation, and many other type of decision process and tasks to automate the kind of tools. So Royston, I know you work at Apple, right? So I would like to ask you, I mean, how do you use and adapt all those new technologies to improve your product and engineering in your DevOps environment?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's definitely AI has changed the ball game pretty comprehensively. I'm going to take a shot at this question in two ways. From a product perspective, of course, like from product, service, or feature implementation, you got to know what you're trying to do and whether your consumers are going to be able to like it or they're going to adopt it, and what is the success metrics you're going to see once the product or service or feature is released. And that's only possible, like in the golden days, we could do beta and alpha testing without having to worry about the competition eating away your innovative ideas. Nowadays, you have to leverage what consumers, what data you can find, the market trends, consumer data, with all the data you could collect about consumers and their behaviors. You would have to use AI and machine learning to assimilate what consumers might want and where the consumer trends behavior is going to change to predict and validate your ideas and features, what you're trying to work on to get to the point to have a conclusive decision to move forward with. And this is definitely quite useful because, crunching billions of data points is possible because of these technologies today. From an engineering point of view, I feel there is quite a lot of innovation from a typical development process to a deployment of a service or feature or product into consumer reachable world. The journey has dramatically reduced because of all the automation which exists. One of the simple example I would say in engineering is as simple as using natural language processing to look at what your deployed applications do and behave to kind of trigger events and create automation to remediate them immediately after that. AI ops is another area where you try and correlate multiple events within your large infrastructure or application or deployments to figure out, okay, what potentially can cause a issue, which otherwise would have taken days to figure out and weed out. So AI ops is really useful in correlating these events and creating automation to kind of overcome those pitfalls. Lastly, of course, any organization know that, okay, you spend a lot of time in developing a product or service or feature. And, the process is error prone, and it's only as good as the people who are programming this or programming the product, feature, or services. Now, with the help of AI and machine learning, you can validate your code as you write and make sure that, okay, your number of errors you produce while building the program is dramatically reduced, hence increasing the productivity of an individual. So all these adds up into creating those little bit of efficiencies, which is the key to the success today, because your overall utilization has to be over 80% across all of the resources, be it human, be it physical infrastructure, and that's the key here. Adopting to these is definitely going to bring in those gaps to very minimal error and increase their efficiency tremendously.
Well, thank you, Royston. I mean, I think you covered a number of technologies, and some of them, I mean, actually, as you mentioned, is utilized in many of the technology we've seen today, like your big data, data science, right? Even AI, machine learning is all based on the data. And how can they coordinate many different kind of data points and to making key decisions, right? So company using data to accelerate their business strategy and to improve the overall sales, marketing, and the product development, right? I was reading an article, on how a company utilizing it. For example, we all know Amazon is so huge. Everybody try to compete with them, and Amazon is unfortunately disrupted or interrupted, or many business goes away because of them. So Target made a very strategic decisions to invest in developing, a core data science and technology team, and to remain competitive in its not only physical but also online experiences, and explore the opportunities and the challenges of competing against retail giants like Amazon and Walmart. So right now, those three companies are fighting with each other. And actually, I'm kind of glad that Target and the Walmart online presence is really beefing up and giving some competition to Amazon, which is good for everybody, right? And so Mudit, since you are the VP and the head of go-to-market at Genesys, and how are you utilize data science and data analytics to enhance your product development and also your overall go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Ron. So I think few things, as we talked about early on, the world is changing around us, and that's like going for good direction. And obviously data is kind of leading the charts, where we have a lot of data, but like how do we make sense out of it? And that's where all this AI, ML, and a lot of things kind of came up in last few years, and all these things are changing around us. So that's a key kind of a thing going forward as well for us. So I think I will kind of answer this question from two different ways. One is I will look at from the perspective of Genesys as a product company, and what we are doing in our products and in our engineering, and what's kind of how it is helping us and helping our customers. And second aspect, I will take it specific to go to market, that the overall portfolio I have, and what kind of tools and technologies we are using, and to kind of make sure of that we close the lead in time and kind of become a customer. So let's take the first perspective, like from the company perspective and product perspective. And people who don't know, Genesys is the company like into the customer contact center business from last 30 years, kind of redefining companies, redefining by itself again and again. And we are at the era where like today means in our one of the product line itself, almost we get 70 billion touch points with the customer in a year. So considering that, like it's a kind of a large touch point we have with our customers. And the point over there is like, how do we enhance that experience? So company early on launched earlier this year, something called experience as a service. I think many of you may not heard that buzzword yet, but I think the company is thinking about like what Salesforce has done for CRM space, something similar where now CRM space like is a Gartner is also recognizing as a magic quadrant. And something similar, which Genesys is thinking about experience as a service, which is again tied back to 70 billion touch points we have got, and how can we improve the experience of the customer end of the day. And so what it has done is not just like a company can do by itself. Like we obviously know that Salesforce has a lot of partnership and a lot of things are going on over there. So same thing as Genesys is taken over here as well, like looking at the like partners and like looking at like a lot of like we are doing partnership with Microsoft, Adobe, and Google, and a lot of things going on where we are looking at specific, how do we increase the or enhance the customer experience. And it's like tie back to, I think it's nothing new, like what we experience day to day as well. Like if we are shopping for something and we have multiple touch points, like can we chat, can we look at online, what kind of pricing is available for the product, and can we talk to somebody, or can we pick up the phone, and all these disjoint experience, can it come together at a single point? Like when you are talking to somebody or chatting or on the website, you are anonymous user becoming a prospect and becoming a paid customer. So whole life cycle, what is the touch point end to end, and how that experiences become seamless experience for a customer. So that's the key behind experience as a service. But I'm coming to now go to market space, which I lead. And I look at from multiple perspective. I think I kind of look at the portfolio right from the marketing to sales to customer success, including professional services. So look at that, like it's a wider kind of portfolio. And it's like very hard to kind of determine sometimes like a customer is coming or prospect is coming like on our website and what is their experience? And we are doing a lot of things where what is the conversion rate? How do we enhance that conversion rate? There are tools there like to kind of look at kind of piecemeal information combined at one place. So let's say somebody is visiting our website from XYZ company and it may be an anonymous user. One day they kind of look at the campaign and then put their information in. Now we should able to kind of understand, oh, they came to our website 100 times from that domain. They looked at this information and now they specifically reacted to a specific campaign and provided their information. That becomes a prospect at that point of time. So how do we leverage that once they become a prospect? Then I think, how do we look at like that's a lead in the system now? What is the conversion for that lead? What it looks like? What kind of open items things may be there? And if one time they pick up the phone and call us, then does the agent who is kind of helping that person or that customer or that prospect has all the information, like what they have done in past? So kind of having that whole life cycle of that customer built in, where now we can look at the customer, answer their question, whatever they are kind of looking for on our website or whatever they are doing or whatever or pain point they have got today. So how can we kind of make sure seamlessly that agent understand and provide the right answers to that customer?
Yeah,
so that's kind of one touch point.
Yeah, I think that's great. The example you use, right? In a sense is, and the customer service, before the customer even call, you already know everything about it. You have a 360-degree view of our customers, right? All their issues, all the kind of things, what they're interested, right? So you can provide the personal touch that people feel like, oh, wow, you know, all the kind of things, right? I think that's great. So and then let me ask our two other panelists, right? And so Maya, I know you've been work at many different companies. You work at Ericsson, Marvell, right? And and currently, I think based on looking at it, you are at a 4PIA company. I'm sure big data underneath or data analytics played a huge role in all the things you have done. Maybe could you share some of the something with us as well?
Yes. Do you hear me? You should hear me.
Hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you for asking. And definitely, if we look for PIA, it's all about analytics and predictions. So you have to, all the technology that we have mentioned today and my colleagues have mentioned, we need to engage in order to actually get a political prediction. And the way how you investigate and how you try to figure out what people really think is trying to see what they are tweeting. So you have to do a lot of social listening. And then we look, there is more and more tools being available all the time. And I just want to comment on this unique historic times we are living. So much technology that exists now, it's applied to enable all world to work online, to connect through Zoom, for example, or other tools within the companies that exist to connect workers. And we will know all this has to be properly analyzed. What is the impact on productivity in a big company when people are working from home? We really don't know if people are more productive or less productive. So there is a number of things that will come in coming years. What kind of experiences we have in consumer market, consumer behavior, people at work behavior, everybody else in society. So this, how can you put all this one into some measurable result? You can do that by applying all the possible tools that exist today. And I'm sure that those that are still lacking, that there's going to be a lot of good results and new tools that will be available to big companies, small companies, startups. Also, you mentioned Walmart and all this. It's happening a lot. And yesterday I saw on the TV that this year, more than double of new startup than previous years, which is very, very interesting, which means that people have either more time to think about what they want to bring. It also shows that people in hard times become more innovative, because we have a lot of businesses that go, and enterprises, especially smaller one or a bigger one, that actually are disappearing in these pandemic times. But what this was a great fact that there is 50% more new startup this year than the previous years. So it is also giving us evidence that the technology that exists today, all the tools that are available in internet and so on, are enabling people actually to start new businesses. And digitalization that has been already present in the previous years, now digitalization of all the businesses are happening. So I saw yesterday, retailers, they don't sell anything anymore. The shops are closed. No one goes there. They have to completely move online, and that's going to continue.
Yeah, fortunately and unfortunately, right? So I somewhat miss the personal touch go shopping now, because now I somewhat don't have that. But at the same time, it's so convenient, right? We all, like doing the Christmas shopping, everything, and you just keep buying. Unfortunately, also for some people, they think money is free, because you don't think about the cost. You just click, because at the physical store, it gives you something out. Then after I finish, I said, whoa, I spent that much money already, right? The retailer love that, right? So Dr. Birkit, do you want to add in something in this area, data science or big data, or anything you want to add from technology perspective in your role?
Perhaps I would still come back to my original point, which is, I think it is really, really important what we use the data for, whether we try to solve the customer related issues, or whether we also try to bring in some wider societal value. So kind of the balance between the profit and the wider social and environmental aspects. And I think that data as well as technology, what we use, is largely dependent on our purpose. So on one hand, we can choose to use it for one or for the other or for both. And I think we are in a way at the crucial point of where we can make that call. And I think it is less so about governments, about transferring the best practices, etc. But I think multinationals are in a key position to transfer such best practices between countries and actually make that global transition.
No, I think it's great. I think another thing is we talk about many different kind of technologies, how company utilizing it. And another key thing is actually sometimes the company even organize their organizations in a certain way to promote innovations, right? And so we talk about the COVID-19 pandemic actually changed so much the way we were doing things, and it actually also produced a lasting change in our behavior as well, right? And certainly we start feel like, well, working from home is not really a bad idea, and the company start realizing that, and because we've been forced to do that. And some of the business really thrived or prospered and during this pandemic, such as we talk about all those e-commerce or e-learning, right? And also the food delivery, right? People, have a food delivery to them. But at the same time, there are many other companies are much left behind, such as the supply chain, right? So this pandemic actually interrupted a lot of the supply chain in our industry globally. We have less airline fly from country to country. Well, in the past, they're using airline, even the passenger airlines, to transfer goods as well, right? And the company need to figure it out now how they can adapt, to the new norm. We keep saying that now is a new norm, right? How do they gonna adapt to the new norm once we really get back to work again, or go back to the physically? And also, how can we bounce back from the downturn, right? So Maya, I'm gonna ask a question to you, and also anybody else can jump in as well. As a CEO, what pathway have emerged to allow enterprise to best adapt and thrive in the new normal? So Maya, you are on mute.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I have to go back to my thoughts. So I would say that it depends what kind of enterprises we are talking about. And there is enterprises with so much money that they can afford having troubles during this year or during the pandemic. There are enterprises that are thriving and like never before, because they are actually fulfilling the needs that this new normal has created. But then we come with a lot of enterprises, especially that are linked to the service industry, which totally struggles. I live in Nevada, in Las Vegas, and I can see around me, because this is a very much service-oriented industry, how much suffering it's putting out. And for some industry, it's very hard to transform to something else. If you're a big hotel chain, if you depend on all those that are coming and visit and spending money, and that's very hard. When we look what also came in the smaller enterprises, I know a lot of smaller company or startups that are fighting a lot to survive now, because money is scarce as well. Due to everything, VCs are not so generous to grant money, because it's very tough time. Also the workforce, people moved. If you look, for example, in Silicon Valley, there is a lot of younger workers, or those that come from university, that actually have moved back home. They cannot afford to stay during this time. So I think how the enterprises can adapt, that depends in which business they are. I have seen some big companies declaring bankruptcy. You talked about personal shopping and so on. So disruption in a society, in the way how we live, how work, and how we spend is huge. So who is going to be the winner of that disruption? Those that are going to be able to adapt a lot.
Yeah.
And for many, many industries, they have to be extremely disruptive in order to, they have to go to disruptive innovation in order to survive.
Yeah, I think the key thing is, how can you adapt? So it's not like same as before. Once this is over, let's go back to the old way. How do we adapt? Fortunately, right, there are many new good things come out of the way we doing our daily work. Like I'm also in the educational in the sector, right? We doing a lot of e-learning, and people suddenly say, wow, actually it's not a bad idea, right? So does anybody else on the panel has anything you would want to add? What paths we have emerged allow enterprise to best adapt and thrive in the new normal? Anybody?
I think, Ron, as we know, like many things will never kind of, whatever changes will never come back. Like many companies over here in Bay Area specifically is like started looking at remote workers and giving an option as well to work remotely permanently. So considering that, like things would come back after pandemic is over, but I think there would be things would be there would never kind of come back. Like I think I will talk about from my personal experience. Like we always used to go to the grocery store before to buy the groceries, but now I think we are get used to of just home delivery so much even if I'm thinking like pandemic is over, I think we're not going to go to the grocery store, just like get things done, delivered at home. They're much easier, much better, and more time for ourselves. So I think some things will never come back. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely, I think the working from home is here to stay. Because at the beginning, a lot of companies fear the productivity loss, but then maybe the first couple of weeks when the first time when people start working home, but once people settle it, actually the study find people are more productive as well. So that I definitely think it's gonna here to stay, and more company probably gonna utilize that. And then actually by doing so, they're going to reduce their operation costs because they don't have to rent all the office space, and so company actually going to be more profitable, I believe. So with all the emerging technology, we talk about it, right? And some of the technology, replace some, even cause other company to re-innovate or go out of the business. But many of the technology also affect the way we live, affect the way we actually doing things. And so there are, governance need to get involved, right? Government regulations and policies, right? So there are so much talk about the Uber or Lyft in certain areas. Are they competing with the taxi drivers, or does the taxi driver pay I think they call them medallions, and then Uber driver doesn't? Airbnb, and certainly start interrupt or disrupt the hotel business, right? And my neighborhood, if I'm at a famous place, right, then certainly become a lot of a hotel business, right? Do I really want that, right? And with all those kind of mixed reality, hyper automation, autonomous, and the connected vehicles as well, right? Driving on the street. And so let me ask Dr. Birkit, so as an expert in corporate governance, I think you have done a lot of work in the corporate governance and the government relations. And in your view, how the government and the private industry should partner together to support all those new technology deployment?
That's a very difficult question to answer it in a universal manner, because the capabilities of different governments differ to such a large extent, because a lot of these issues have to do with specific technologies, have to do with the niche markets and the capabilities of large governments to specialize in those niches is much greater than those of small governments. For example, the country that I'm from, Estonia, which is very known for its e-government solutions. At the same time, it is a country of 1.3 million people. So the government sector there is really, really small, and the number of experts in government is very small. So the ability is just to provide a more general framework, while in bigger countries it is much easier to specialize within the government itself. So it's kind of finding the fine balance what works for each and every country, how they can support their companies and how they can regulate the industries.
Yeah, that's very true. Not only each country is different. In the US, each city is different, right? So city has a different policy for Airbnb, even for Uber, or all kind of things, right? It is hard. So I guess the key things, as you mentioned, is more of, even for the private industry, develop technology, have to think through some of the regulations and policies. How can they adapt to it? Because otherwise, or either, I think Uber did use a lot of money in California to fight our proposition, right? And they changed the law that way, right? So is anybody else has anything to add on this particular partnership with government or governance and the policy perspective? Okay. Well, if not, and we're right on time, and well, thank you very much for all of you to provide a great conversation about many different topics, right? We covered in many different areas. We covered, the governance, policies, emerging technologies, daily operations. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, everybody.